really, really impressive what Inter have done. It's spread out. When you prepare for Inter, there's Simone Inzaghi's got these guys set up that there is so much to prepare for when you play them. Where when you prepared for Conte's Inter, you knew that Lukaku was the reference point.
Yep.
It's going through him. Um, they're probably going to let you have a little bit more of the ball so that they could take advantage of his skill set. But this team, there's so much that you have to prepare for, and then when you do have the ball against them, you have it's hard to get between those lines and get into those half spaces and get to that back three and break them down because of the role that Brozovic is playing. We talked about this with Anthony the last time we were on. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing all of these facets of Inter coming through and just getting to be a tougher and tougher team to prepare for every time they play.
I mean, and the freedom he just gives these players. I mean, you got the center backs pushing up. I mean, look at that goal Skriniar scored, right? You got Bastoni pushing up on the left hand side. Skriniar's in the box, pushing up. I mean, the freedom allows them to be more expressive, obviously, and then because of this, they're playing with with no regret, and they're taking their chances and they're scoring these goals. And obviously under Conte's system, it's more rigid, it's more disciplined, and I think it's a welcome change for the Interisti or the Inter players, because they kind of, while they did so good under Conte, now they feel like the reins are off of them. They can really run wild and do what they all feel like they have the potential to do. So yeah, this is a fun team to watch if you're a neutral. This Inter team certainly can bring it from all different directions, and they have different facets to their game, like we just talked about. So yeah, it's a dangerous team, and I'm curious to see how they do in against Liverpool in the Champions League. That's going to be a big matchup.
Devil's advocate, how much of this is taking advantage of a Lazio back line that did not have a Cherby back there that could keep things marshaled and organized? You've got a combination of Luis Felipe and Stefan Radu as your center backs. Disaster waiting to happen is probably the most polite way to put it.
Sure.
How much of it do we have to pump the brakes just ever so slightly, or say, hey, this is Inter. Acerbi could have been out there, and they're probably finding a way to score goals like this.
Yeah, especially this Acerbi this year. I think they're going to find a way to score no matter what. I think the credit mostly has to go to Inter, as opposed to, yes, Lazio may be hurting and stuff like that, but this is a good Inter squad, and I think Lazio are far from the park. We're going to see them here like next year, right? Next year at this point, it'll probably be a much different beast. But this year, they're not quite there yet, and unfortunately, they're playing a team that is there. And this team is legit. And I'm not going to – I mean, if this is early in the year, first 5 games of the year, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's just back it off a little bit. But we've seen enough of a sample size here with Inter. I think they're legit.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
Yep, I agree. So we'll see as things start to tighten, fixtures start to pile up, if they can continue to sustain this. One team that doesn't have to worry about fixture pileups, the other side of Milan, the red and black side, return to action with a bang, destroying Roma 3-1, and then following that up by destroying Venezia 3-0, getting out to the right start to the new year for Stefano Pioli's men, having to do it with a lot of makeshift and a lot of changes, a lot of adjusting. You going up against Roma with a center back pairing of Gabbia and Kalulu, which you wondered, man, Abraham could roast this. Mkhitaryan could come through and bring about some problems, but it was a composed performance. The double pivot, which I think we have a Who on Calcio Twitter entry, which Tonali might have been the entire double pivot. And then the performance there. So Milan getting 2 big wins, finding ways to get it done. Stefano Pioli has just pushed the right buttons yet again. We look at the table now, and we see Inter on 49, Milan on 48, and Milan's 5 ahead of Napoli, 7 ahead of Atalanta, and 10 ahead of Juve, 7 ahead of Atalanta, with Atalanta having a game in hand. But we should ask the question, is this the beginning of the Milan clubs starting to get away from the pack here? And do we see signs that this could be a 2-horse race?
It sure looks like it, right? I mean, 5-point gap between second and third at the moment. For the league's sake, I hope it doesn't pull it. And for our sake, I would love it to be a 2-horse race, right? But
Yep.
I don't know if we stand a great. It's easier when it's a lot of teams to dethrone the champs. You need a lot of teams involved. If you just have 2 teams at it, and I mean, I still think Atalanta is going to be punching above their weight, or they're going to be heavy hitters, right? And Napoli, don't discount them. Don't look now about Juve, but yeah, it seems like the 2 Milanese clubs are starting to pull away ever so slightly because they're the most consistent teams. Inter is by far the best team in the league, and I think Milan's playing very consistently. They've gone through a plethora of players this year, but by no stretch a consistent starting 11 because of all the injuries and whatever and COVID and all that, and they're still performing as well. Now you've seen, Kalulu had a really good game the last 2 games. Bakayoko is now playing well. They're starting to, get these guys these opportunities, and they're playing consistent. And so, yeah, these 2 Milanese clubs are ones that look out for. And, speaking of, keep talking about Milan, is that Leao, look at what he did in against Venezia, right? In the first 2 minutes of the game. Great assist by him. Great pace by him. We saw against Roma as well, that breakaway goal. Paul, I hear you, man. Definitely do not count out Atalanta. Atalanta, they score for fun, and they are now concentrating back on the league. So they're going to be in the mix real quick. But I think right now it's the 2 Milanese clubs are just ever so consistent compared to everybody else. Napoli dropping points again. Other teams are going to have to pick up the slack, and I think Atalanta will. Napoli, I assume, will as also, and Juventus are all of a sudden turning it around. So it's not over by any stretch, but it does seem like the cream of the crop does seem to be in Milan City at the moment.
Yep.
Hell, the region with Atalanta.
Lombardia. Yeah, Lombardia. It's all about Lombardia right now in Serie A, I think. I mean, with all due respect to Napoli, I think they still, might have a shot. But Milan have the benefit of not playing in Europe, which Inter, Napoli, Atalanta, and then you go down to Juventus even, and Roma, all are still in it and have those extra fixtures. We'll have to see how interested these teams are going to be in the Coppa Italia as part of the process. So for those, but for that reason, and was a big advantage for Inter last year, Milan can put the pressure on Inter because they can focus squarely on this competition. For as long as Inter's in the Champions League, which might just be one more round against Liverpool, unless they pull off a surprise, there is that is a distraction for them. Having to play this extra game tomorrow, the Supercopa, that's an added game for them. So those things. But I agree on the Atalanta comment. I worry about that defense for Atalanta. I don't think it's good. I don't think you get any better loaning out a guy like Lovato, who was giving you who provided some quality depth, and kind of having a nice impact for Cagliari already through 2 games, helping them to win 2 games in a row. And your defense doesn't get better by adding Jeremy Boga. So that's as fun as that's going to be to see him in that system. I still worry about that with Atalanta as what might stunt their progress, to winning to being a contender for the Scudetto. They're going to be there. They're going to accumulate points. They're going to have to do it by playing a lot of entertaining, pickup game style football. Really, I mean, because there's nothing that's proven to me that the defending is going to stick.